In a world of magic and mystery, one elf woman fights crime and the forces of evil in her own unconventional way. These are The Misadventures of Agnetha Deveaux. Episode 3, Miss Deveaux's Haunting, written by Royce Pentaghast. Since last episode, the general election in Varadune had come to pass, and the Progressive Party, of which our hero's best friend was a member, had won in a landslide victory thanks to last week's event. In the weeks that followed the election and the transfer of power, Turmell found himself groomed to be the party's leading junior minister. But all that would come to change after a meeting with Senior Minister Drake and the party's spin doctor, Front.
Thing is, you see, we want you to be a bit more open with the public about your elven heritage.
My what?
Polls are saying the public will be open to an elven minister in government.
But I'm not elven.
And?
Well, what about, Saxon? He's half Manerish, half elven.
Oh, that's the word. Better remember that one for future. Manerish. How'd you spell that?
Saxon doesn't fit the profile we're looking for.
You see, Robertson, we have happened across a little hiccup. Where our party policy stood for more diversity and equality, well, we've not quite managed to meet those requirements.
So, you want me to lie about being part elf so you look good?
Well, when you put it like that, it does sound bad.
Listen here, Robertson. I don't care if you stay or go, but this is politics. And if you want to play, you got to play by our rules. So are you?
On the other side of town, Agnetha stormed out of the offices to the Varadune Gazette, and was about to have a fortuitous meeting that would put into motion this story.
Oh, dear Lord.
Balls. Sorry about that. Let me grab your eye.
Ah, not a problem. Your choice of expletive is appropriate and amusing. Succinct and to the point. I find myself favouring such words, if more colourful.
Same. I say here's your hat and suitcase.
She looked over the man, older, with a big curly beard, hair brown, but greying, dressed in a fancy suit.
If ever there were a rag in the city befitting such vulgarity, it would be the Gazette. The sight of those angrily storming from its offices is a common one.
Say, are you Charles Callow?
Charles Callow is the most successful and undoubtedly the most popular author living today, having published 11 novels, 13 novellas, and countless articles on modern society.
Why, yes, I am. Pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Oh, wicked. I love your books. I thought I recognised you based off your portrait on the front cover. Whoever drew you was definitely better at likenesses than the guy who did mine.
Thank you. Did your what?
Oh, I mean portrait.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I mean, he got the tattoos at least. But you get what you pay for, you know. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about me.
Are you Agnetha Deveaux, the detective and monster slayer?
That is wild. You know who I am?
I have read of your exploits in the papers, and saw your visage upon one of your posters when I arrived. I say the likeness is good enough for me to recognize you from it.
What are you doing here in Varadune?
Well, having grown up in the city some 40 years ago, I decided this would be an appropriate first stop in the western leg of my stage tour.
Oh, right, cool. If only to rub your success in their faces, eh?
Well, yes, but mostly recompense. Miss Deveaux, you are a monster slayer.
Somewhat.
I would like a meeting with you to discuss business. I have a ticket for a private box at tonight's show if you would like to meet backstage afterwards. I may have a monster that needs your seeing to.
That sounds weirdly suggestive.
That evening, Agnetha made her way to the theatre, her coat buttoned up and Ellingham boots wiped clean of mud, with a sullen Turmell in tow.
I'm sorry it happened, but you stuck to your principles. You'd be a hypocrite if you took their offer.
But where does it leave me? Demoted? Shoved to the back bench? I may as well have been wiped from existence. And I will be if I say anything.
What if I continue with my political espionage and report on it for you?
Thanks, but you can't. There are rules. There's a system in place to stop that happening. The fallout a few weeks ago with the last government was due to gross negligence. You report it, anyone reports it gets tied back to me. I'm barred and they wave it away. There's no proof unless anyone wants to admit it.
Okay, I get it. Maybe we could put it aside for tonight and focus on this.
I'd rather be home with my fiancée, but she's away and not back until next week.
Here, so you got me. I'll even keep your bed warm. With fire magic, I mean, not...
How much are these tickets anyway? Seats to Callow don't go cheap.
No, but they do go free. I were giving 'em tickets to a private box. This way, Robertson. The luxury view of the stage. You a fan of Callow?
I never actually read anything of his. Of course, I saw the play The Solstice Night. Everyone has, but...
There was nothing to suggest about that warm summer's night that peculiar things were afoot at Endelwine Hall. When indeed peculiar things were afoot and taking place that night.
You know he gets paid
Things
by
that
the
I,
word.
at my youthful age
How'd you get
of
these
9,
tickets
would
anyway?
later look back upon
Callow gave 'em to
with
me
wonder
himself.
and intrigue.
Seems he has a
But in
job
that
for me.
moment I'd witnessed them, did send me spiraling into a shock, so profound it ripped what remained of my childhood from my being, and made me not into a man, but a haunted ghoul.
Mr. Callow, this is my friend Turmell, is our Robertson.
Thank you for the tickets. The show was amazing.
Thank you, you're too kind. Now to business this way. It is perhaps no secret my work is semi-autobiographical. My return to Varadun City is not just for nostalgia, but in pursuit of research for my next project. It is here my love of storytelling emerged through my reading of the Harrowed Quarterlies.
What are those?
Tales of mystery and horror printed in short magazines and pamphlets, folded to be a quarter size of newspapers. They are intended as nothing more than fun, disposable jaunts, taking inspiration from the world of spirits, crime, and mythology. Seems they were mostly a staple here in Varadun as opposed to anywhere else. My next project, once I complete this tour, is to begin compiling a selection of my favorites. Callow's Harrows is the working title. While doing research into the genre, I found a number of reports made within Varadun dating back a year of real-world going-ons that bear a remarkable resemblance to the Harrows.
Like what?
All sorts. Reports within the alienage of a ghostly figure marching the square from 1 to 3 in the morning, clanking chains in the sewers where the old prison once stood, a mansion by the river with a ghostly mother and child scaring tenants away.
Oh yeah, the Offing Manor. We saw that last year.
Well, that's a tale for a later time. Now there is one much more sinister that requires urgent attention.
Callow set down a newspaper dated a few weeks before, detailing a grisly attack that had taken place near the canals. The story was news to Agnetha as she leaned in to scan the article.
From what I've been told, reports about this incident have been kept quiet within the city. My attention was only brought to this case thanks to this article published in the Josephinio newspaper, who leapt on the crime's bizarre and violent nature to push their anti-Harrington agenda. Upon arriving in the city, I ventured to the city's canals to speak to witnesses and victims. They describe a figure in red, covered in either torn fabric or long, matted hair, brandishing a blade in each hand or, as most statements claim, silver claws. And this figure leaps in the darkness in the dead of night, slashing their victims before disappearing just as quickly. Some claim they awoke to find this figure looming over their beds, before being attacked and the figure leaping out the window. Victims have mostly been women and children, and while there have been no deaths caused by this figure, I fear it will soon lead to many.
So you've called me to investigate.
You have no knowledge of this yourself?
This is the first I've heard of it.
Red, you said? Red fabric or fur? Curious with the red fog a few weeks ago.
I won't discount it, but there are a lot of red things. I mean, your coat you're wearing right now is red. So, Mr. Callow, why did you want to look into this yourself?
The description of the attacker reminded me of a character featured in the Harrow Quarterlies, a demon that could traverse a city block in a single stride, who could gut its victims with its claws. Speaking with the victims, they all spoke a name that came to them following their attacks, as if by bewitchment. The Tattered Jackanapes.
Well, it's definitely worth investigating. If there is some magic or spirit influence at play, I mean, the name thing sounds like a meme jinx, I should be able to track it. Either way, people are getting hurt, so I'm gonna dick stomp this scarlet twat.
It was agreed that they would all meet the following night to patrol the streets, as Callow had to leave for a party. The next day, Agnetha investigated the streets herself, picking up vague murmurings of some kind of dark magic at the scene of each attack. Turmell's words, tying these incidents to the red fog weeks before, played on repeat in her head as she tried to remember the magic at play there. If the two were connected, the implications could be terrifying.
How's your day going?
Horribly. I've lost access to all the upper floors and my office. I was turned back by security. Back to where I was in admin years ago. And what's worse, they promoted that oafish misogynist Dominic's in my place. All because I refused to tell a lie.
Ah, mate, there's your fatal flaw. You're a politician. Lying is what you do.
Agnetha, I know you have little respect for my job, except for when it benefits you. But a politician is supposed to do their best to run a government, and a country by extension. I'm not so naive and foolish to think it's honest work. Of course it's lying. We're spin doctors told by marketing teams to sell a version of the truth to minimise disappointment. But me confessing to the easily disprovable fact that my lineage is elven is no truth in any sense of the word.
Turmell, you're wrong. I don't have any respect for your job. And why don't you want to be an elf? Elves are wicked. Hearing boost 5 times. Magic bonus plus 50. What are you, a racist?
I'm not a racist.
You big racist.
I am not a racist.
Come on. Why won't you lie about being an elf to benefit others?
If I'm going to benefit others, I want to do so honestly. If I go out there saying I'm an elf, doing this for elf kind, for any kind, the second it comes out I'm not, it blows up in everyone's faces. Everything I said delegitimized and all that progress wiped away.
Then maybe you could take out those trying to make you lie about being an elf. Maybe I can help you. I can make a pretty good bomb.
There could be a way to scandalise those senior ministers out of office. But I need proof and the testimony of others. One disgruntled former employee and a member of the Elven Liberation Front isn't going to cut it.
How about that? I only just realised their initials spelled out elf. E-L-F. I don't know how I missed that. If all else fails, maybe politics just isn't for you. Go back to your old job, maybe.
What, real estate?
My God, did you pick the 2 biggest professions for tosses? You didn't also study law, did you? You've always been pretty anal about that.
Agnetha, are you in or out tonight? I'm making pie, so I want to know if you're on hand to help or if I should call on Ross.
We're going monster hunting tonight with Charles Callow, investigating a bunch of attacks near the canals.
Oh, you mean the Jackanapes slashing?
What? You've heard of this?
I hear lots of things working the bar. People's personal dramas, rumours and tall tales, casual sexual harassment. Anyway, there's been talk of those attacks the last few weeks.
What is the world coming to?
Something better, I hope. And you better be there helping to push the way forward, Turmell. Shaking your head at injustice isn't going to achieve anything. Neither is quitting because someone didn't like you calling them out. Get back out there. Fight the good fight. And replace that fool Dominic's before he removes women's public toilets. Speaking of hearing things, Agnetha, what were you up to in your room last night?
What do you mean? My room's soundproof.
I could hear everything. So maybe you better upgrade whatever soundproofing you've got.
Either that or move to the mountains out of shame.
Turmell returned to work shortly after, and that evening he and Agnetha met with Callow by the canals to begin their patrol. The 3 agreed to stay together should they be attacked. The streets darkened and quietened, the street lamps were lit, and the night grew cold.
I'm picking up faint traces of the dark magic I detected earlier. Feels like it's growing.
What happens when we find him, though? I know you can fight, but Callow has a cane.
Well, Turmell, this cane is merely a prop. Hidden within is a blade as sharp as a razor.
Well, the next question is to whether you know how to use it.
Aha! I might have something, like the dark magic passed through here. Going this way, follow me.
Down this alley? That's not risky at all.
It's getting stronger now. We're following it best we can. It's like he's leapt up and down lanes, up walls, onto streets.
What is this magic you see?
It's like a trail of purple smoke, like one from a cigar or pipe, hanging in the air where he went. It's getting thicker now, so we must be close.
2 by 4, they knocked the door for Crump to fill their plate. 5 and 6, he kicked out the sticks, lame at 7 and 8.
He got me!
There he is! He's running!
He's up the walls to the roof, quick!
The 3 ran after the ghoulish attacker, dressed in tattered red rags and a red grinning mask. Agnetha healed the cuts from across her arms and chest and scaled the wall after him. With each bound, he effortlessly cleared several meters, while Agnetha barely kept up, shrugging off her heavy coat for better mobility. The chase moved from the darkened lanes into the bustling streets. The tattered jackanapes stumbled and fell from the roof amongst the city's pedestrians.
Move! Homicidal maniac in pursuit of dangerous felon!
He's running into the theatre!
Good grief, there's a show on in there.
The problem is, you can't have people conducting their protests like this. Now let's say hypothetically, for argument's sake, you had an attractive sister.
Sorry, wait, I know you.
Agnetha, he's getting away.
The chase spilled from the theatre back out into the street. The red-covered man no longer leaping about or cackling, but now desperately running, trying to get away. Gritting her teeth and clenching her fists, she quickened her pace, leaping forwards when she got close enough and tackling him from behind.
Gotcha, you scarlet twat!
It was then when things went dark. Agnetha woke on the cold floor of an empty void. The floor was grey and stretched out as far as the eye could see. The sky was black, yet she was lit as if she stood in daylight. She looked around, confused. There was no sign of the tattered Jackanapes, the street, anything, or anyone.
At last, we meet.
What is this place?
My name is not important. How you got here? That is a much more pressing question.
I didn't ask that, so you better answer, otherwise I'll set your head on fire.
The man was tall, with slicked-back black hair, a thin moustache, dressed in a grey suit with dark circle-rimmed glasses obscuring his eyes. There was no colour about his entire person, not even his skin.
Always resorting to threats of violence. This is a place beyond many people's comprehension. A place of nothing and everything. Of infinite potential. Very few have access to this place, and even fewer get to see it.
1 second, I'm running down a street after some knife-wielding nutbag. I'll black out, then I'll wake up here.
Ha, yes. It seems that associate of mine was running out the end of his tether.
Well, anyone associating with that kind of person definitely deserves their head full of fire.
Agnetha summoned flames into her hands and was taken aback by how strong and bright they were, far greater than anything she had experienced before. Her body felt alive with magic, singing out, glowing almost.
This is a spirit realm, isn't it? The place where mages draw their power from. Infinite potential energy. Nothing and everything all at once.
I tend to the skills of the wielder who enter this plane. Yet for one who exists here, I can do so much more.
With a twist of his hand, a stone building appeared out of thin air and slammed Agnetha into the ground. Heaving herself back up, she found herself in an overgrown castle courtyard, purple flames surrounding her from the cloisters. Cobblestones extended up from the floor to encase her like a cage, as she saw the figure approach her from the fire.
Anyone who wields that kind of power and exists in the spirit realm is either one or two things. A spirit, yeah, sure, the name kind of spells that one out. Either that, or a demon.
It is such a pleasure to finally meet you face to face, even if we are not fully corporeal in this plane. Long have I watched you, Miss Deveaux.
Weird.
And now I can do so much more than simply watch. I can reach past the veil to twist your reality to my whim. Small things at first. Whispers were all I could manage, but whispers were enough to enter the head of the mage, to make him steal that book and cast Varadun into a red haze.
So that were you behind that? The red fog that killed so many?
Not enough. In my time, such a magical catastrophe would be enough for rioting in the streets. Magical people thrown in stocks, hanged from the castle battlements. How tolerant people have instead become. So I tried something new. Something you have yet to discover. But the slasher known as a Tattered Jackanapes was another pawn under my spell. One that led you to me. I have many plans, Miss Deveaux, and now one of them is to see to your destruction. The hurt you have caused is immeasurable, and so many lives have been ruined through your actions. Your removal will allow the natural order to continue.
I was wrong. I know what you are. There's 3 kinds of things that could exist in this world.
The demon faltered for a moment, as if taken aback by what she said.
Spirits, demons, and kids just like you.
You know nothing. I will enjoy this.
Raising his hand, he clicked his fingers, and everything went white. As sight returned to her, Agnetha found herself once again in the alley, pinning the Tattered Jackanapes to the ground.
Goodness, you did it, Miss Deveaux. You caught the Tattered Jackanapes. You certainly are impressive.
You're right, mate.
I feel almost as if I've just woken up from the strangest dream.
Oh dear. In literature, never are more depressing words spoken than those.
The masked slasher was soon taken away by the city guard, as Agnetha explained to Turmell and Callow the strange vision she had just witnessed, answering more of Callow's questions as they came up. The three called it a night, and made their way back to their respective homes. When she eventually got into bed, the demon's words still ringing in her ears, Agnetha pulled the covers over her head just in case. The next morning, as Turmell arrived at the Vestment Silver, he found Agnetha was already up and at work. Her room more cluttered than usual, with open spellbooks and mad ramblings scribbled upon a classroom chalkboard Agnetha had somehow acquired a few months before.
So this person you saw, is definitely a demon, is it?
Yeah. Well, you see, demon is kind of a catch-all term for anything from beyond that's not exactly benign. Like sprites, wraiths, shades, demeric warriors, abstract concepts, bloodsuckers, angry ghosts. My guy, though, he seems to be something similar, but different. He looked human, but then again, many of these things are shapeshifters, so anything's possible. He looked as though he'd had all the colour drained from him, like a grayscale portrait, though his eyes seemed to glow purple like he was taking power off the realm.
So what does that mean?
I'm thinking what we're dealing with is a malignant spirit. There's so many different types of magic in the world, so nothing is certain. But with the magic I deal with, a person's spirit tends to exist in a vague, dreamlike state in death, free of emotions and feeling. Some who are troubled remain trapped between planes. Others are so fueled by their emotions and become corrupted. Their force of will traps them in a point of existence between life and peace. Their anger, their hatred, and fear twisting them beyond into something more, retaining their personalities, their identity, but free to act upon the evil of their soul. Malignant spirits are dangerous and incredibly powerful. A spirit who can pass through to this world and have an effect on it is something beyond anything I have encountered.
But is there a way to stop it?
I don't know.
Can such an evil be vanquished? Tune in to the next episode of The Misadventures of Agnetha Deveaux. Starring
Liz Corrick as Agnetha,
Royce Pentaghast as Turmell,
Schuyler Boe as Charlotte,
Greg Johnson as Drake, Glenn Pryor as Front,
Jake T. Hodgetts as Charles Callow, and the Tattered Jackanapes.
and Michael Mengarda as the narrator. Theme music composed by Matt Harris. Additional music by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Produced by City Park Radio 2022. Next time on The Misadventures of Agnetha Deveaux.
So, the Gordon Goodbrides are a fundamentalist megachurch.
I know of them, yes.
There's been reports of people coming back from the retreat feeling sick.
Close your eyes, open your minds, your hearts, your souls. Breathe it in!
The sprites haven't left me. They won't stop talking at me.
Whoa, how y'all doing here today?
Your failure to die on today's sermon will only mean your demise shall be more painful in future.